center was created in 2007 to promote and to advance research on the visual culture of Spain, Portugal, and Latin America in general. I'd just like now to welcome
the panel will analyze and reflect on his audiovisual work to improve the understanding of current food policies and their impact in society and arts by elaborating on the political and economic factors to promote them.
Flickering Darkness, La Oscuridad que se apaga in Spanish, is a project that was produced in Colombia, in Bogotá, in the south of the city, commissioned by the British Council and the Ministry of Culture. I was exploring ideas about displacement, invisibility, and territory. So my search in the city, a place that I had never been before, took me to the Corabastos, which is the largest market supply in the whole of the Latin American continent. I worked with a group of people who were displaced from the north of the country because of the conflict. So I wanted to use food as a metaphor to talk about identity, to talk about how in a society like Bogotá, the city of Bogotá, there's a stratification, a social stratification that somehow you can see in the world.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It really is a pleasure for me to be here. The title of my presentation is Taking Food Seriously, and in it I will try to anchor Juan delGado's work, The Flickering Darkness, to a history of artworks that have dealt with one of our most basic needs, the consumption of food. The works that I will be speaking about are all characterized by critically engaging with the sites of production, consumption, and circulation of food in a variety of contexts, from Argentina to the Arctic. The presentation will be divided in 3 short segments. The first will explore a couple of historical examples of artworks that have had food as a central component. The second will survey artistic practices at the turn of the millennium that sought to reveal the complex imbrication between food products and larger economic systems of capitalist exchange. And the last section would focus on a project by Free Soil entitled Fruit, and the work of contemporary Indian artist Subankar Banerjee and his ethnography of animal food chains.
I will be speaking about visual representation, so what the image actually is. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to think critically about what this process of taking photographs and making images of something actually means. So very often we see something for the very first time on image. So we see it on the TV, we see it on the press, we might see it because we attend an event like this. And what I'm trying to understand is what that actually means for our cognitive processes. Can we actually learn anything at all from looking at the image of something we haven't really seen or experienced in the past?
Industry sustained on a production system concentrated in a few players. Such concentration of the circulation of food ranges from land property to massive agricultural production. And it also promotes a chain of exclusion in the use of scenes, which jeopardizes the very subsistence of humankind, as it becomes more and more dependent on a few agents whose only aim is to maximize their profits. In the process, the rules of production will also have an impact on society and serious environmental repercussions. Neo-colonial, over-opportunistic and predatory model sustained on the strategies of foreign corporations and based on the excessive exploitation of our natural resources. This will also have major impact on the ecosystems, a strong and negative impact. Our government has not seriously tried to reverse those policies. On the contrary, it's been complicit with them or very secretive. The aim of our extension program is to inform and sensitize our community with the collaboration of many other local social institutions in order to raise awareness in the hope that by facing reality, we will generate a space for debate and discussion as our end goal is to reach consensus for the creation of a nature-friendly structure of production. We strongly believe that our challenges are not only a different model of production, but also diverse forms of consumption and a different way of life.
I'm trying to have a new insight on a subject that is before 2009 wasn't very interesting to me, which is food. I was more interested in people. The idea of making a project in which I was researching theme about dislocation, trauma, displacement. That was something that at that time in 2009 I was really looking for a different way to explore that without being too graphic. Andres, I wasn't really very aware of that I was part of a tradition of different artists working with food as a matter of talking about other things. But also I wasn't really aware how my project could reach audiences that are not just interested in contemporary art or beauty, but also allow, a platform which we can all discuss things that in one way or another are all part of our life. Luis from Entre Rios University was talking about something that is very far from us. It's Argentina. It's in the other part of the world. It's very, very interesting how, a reality that a society in Argentina is living up now, it have an impact in our own way of living in the UK. And this is one of the main reasons why I made Flickering Darkness. Making Flickering Darkness was for me to bring a reality I wasn't aware of when I was in Colombia. Agata, in her interest of bringing, a different aspect of the, indigenous communities that are very diverse. And I wouldn't say biodiversity because we are talking of human people. This curiosity, I went to that place, obviously. And that journey, that work took me to the Corabastos. This is the place where most of the people who had been displaced because of the conflicts in Colombia, they settled there. I mean, these people come from the countryside. Most of them have a completely alienated situation because obviously, Bogota is a place where they cannot find themselves.
So in a way, they're excluded people who find shelter working around this sort of dangerous place.
But these people work from 9 p.m. to 7, 8 p.m. a.m. All overnight. And basically, they are the people who unload produce that had been taken or transported from all over the country. Mostly these people are invisible to the city that is fed by organic, almost unconscious ways. I was really interested in trying to explore this reality.
What do you tell them you're going to do with their images when you take them?
Well, so I'm normally very, very explicit, so I normally ask them, like, I think what it is, if you know a little bit more about this particular community, they do seem to have a big necessity of big will to tell us a message about, and this is really a lot to do with ecology and about the way how we treat the planet and how we destroy everything. And
I was thinking, what happens to the garbage in that market?
Corabastos is surrounded by another market. It's called the Mercado de las Flores, and the food that is no longer being traded inside the Corabastos is taken into this market, and obviously the price is probably 1/4 of what the original price was. We can think of here of a new Covent Garden market, in Battersea, and how you can think about the amount of food that is circulating all the time. Trauma is representable. I can't represent trauma because trauma is related to experience. The narrative of some of the people were talking about, how the family had been completely destroyed because the husband been kidnapped or killed, or the children were kidnapped by whoever, paramilitary or guerrilla. To me, it was a question in the process of making this work. By that silence, I'm expecting, I mean, it's very colorful, and that's it. The work is very beautiful to look at.
Exactly.
Somehow, I question myself if beauty is not taking over the actual subject.
Do you think that it falls within certain poles of the representation of life in Colombia through the arts? That they're either usually dark and depressing and violent, or sometimes completely shun off the violence of the country to highlight its beauty, basically. And again, something that I think your video does really well is placed more or less in between those spaces. So it's not overtly too beautiful, magical surrealism sort of thing, the land of exotic fruits and plantains. Although it is about that, but it's also about the social order that orders more or less that food in that place. So I think it really, it stands in an in-between, a very interesting in-between of those two poles of dealing with reality in Colombia.